All right, and welcome to the Bills Blitzkrieg podcast. Today is Sunday, February 14th. We will be getting into the draft, the Bills draft needs, J.J. Watt scenarios, and much, much more. As always, I am here with my co-host, Jaf. How you feeling today, Jaf?
I'm feeling great. A lot of exciting things to talk about on the Bills Twitter sphere, the Bills media sphere. J.J. Watt just hit the open market. Everyone's drunk on nostalgia, trying to get him into Buffalo. We're getting into free agent season. We just got reports that the salary cap is going up, which is always a positive. So the Bills are looking in the positive for cap room rather than the negative $6 million, what we were looking at about 2-3 weeks ago. So there's a lot to like. I'm really starting to dig into the draft, and it's going to be a weird draft. A lot of players didn't play full season, so we'll see what kind of hindrance that gives to Brandon Beans, the other scouts, and the GMs around the league. But as always, happy to be here and ready to dig into Buffalo Bills topics.
Awesome. Love to hear it. So our annual segment, every podcast, we do some sort of beverage review. It started out as a beer review, but, sometimes we aren't always drinking the hard stuff, whether that be seltzer or maybe a little soda pop. What do you got for us today?
In the spirit of the bipartisanship and cooperation, I raise this glass to my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans.
I have another local one. Been drinking a lot of local beers, trying to support local. This is from a Beltline, downtown Buffalo. It's called The Doors Down. It's a seasonal winter IPA brewed with Galaxy Nelson and Citra hops. It's really bursting with a lot of citrusy notes, tropic hop notes, and a little bit of dankness, a little bit of pithy resiny hop to it. So it's not super sweet, super juicy, but a really nice all-around beer and a really kick you in the ass at 8.1%. So if I start ranting and raving, it's just because I'm drunk. Don't worry about me.
All right. Well, I am drinking a little Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing IPA. It is, I think I've probably had it before on previous episodes. As I've said, it's always my go-to IPA, whether I'm at the gas station or grocery store. We are a beer shop desert here in upstate New York, very upstate New York. So that's what I'm going with tonight.
It's always a solid beer.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with it. And today is technically my Saturday night, so may just get into them heavy.
Party it up.
All right, so obviously J.J. Watt is free of the Texans. There's there are, I think a dozen options of different teams that he would maybe be a good fit on and would consider him. As of late, I've seen the most serious contender for picking him up would be the Green Bay Packers. But he has decided to wait through the weekend to make any decisions on where he wants to go. But I would expect that Brandon Beane, at the very least, makes a phone call. I don't foresee anything happening with it. I don't think, not necessarily that he wouldn't be a good fit with the Bills. I just don't foresee Brandon Beane snatching that much cap space with him releasing guys that might be in favor to keep around for the future on a star like J.J. Watt. His career is waning at this moment in time. So I don't know. There's lots to consider with potential pickup for J.J. Watt, but I just don't think it's realistic. What do you got for us on J.J. Watt, Jeff?
I'll go a step further, and I've been picking fights and debating, respectfully, of course, but picking fights and debating with people over the weekend about J.J. Watt, and it's madness, man. He's age 32. He's only had one full season in the past 3 years, and I think those 2 seasons were like 4 games or 5 games. He's had some very serious injuries that have limited him significantly, and he's just turned age 32, and he's had the worst year of his career. So I think it's just wishful thinking to think he'll rebound in a new system, in a new city, and turn back into a guy that's getting 10 to 20 sacks a season. And we're talking about significant capital on a very cap-strapped season. Bills still, as we're sitting, and this is just projected, we don't know where the cap is going to be, but we're saying $3 million, and then we're going to have to cut 2 of our linemen, which we want to do anyways. But we want to cut those linemen to bring people back. We just had an AFC Championship caliber team. We want to be able to bring back guys like Darrell Williams, Matt Milano. We don't need to be out reaching for guys that are past their prime like J.J. Watt. He's a shoo-in for probably the first ballot Hall of Famer, but he is not who he was in the start of his career. So we're looking at probably spending $6 to $8 million to bring him in on a 1-year rental on a huge gamble that he's going to be able to adjust to a 4-3 system when he was a 3-4 defensive end. I think it's just foolish to even. I mean, you consider it. You can put the feelers out and see if he might take a huge pay cut. But if you're going anywhere over $4 million per year for him, it's going to handcuff the team, and I think they'd be significantly better going elsewhere. I think everyone's mad on a nice splashy pick. Everyone's really excited to get in a guy like J.J. Watt because he's a big face of the NFL, but it wouldn't fit here. I don't like it. I think it'd be a bad spending of money, but by the time this comes out, we might see where he goes. Maybe he will sign with Buffalo. He has been targeted as a favorite for Buffalo, so I'd say he probably goes to Pittsburgh with his brothers. I think that would be his kind of sailing off into the twilight kind of move, but I wouldn't like it here. I'd rather them spend some money on Milano.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see Milano stick around. The stats speak for themselves. He's a powerhouse. But yeah, I would agree with that. I don't see Brandon Beane as the kind of GM that, like you said, who will pick up this potential Hall of Fame defensive end or edge rusher just because he's got the big name. And like you said, we're really short on cap space. So I just don't foresee that happening. All right, and now we will get into the Bills draft needs.
The 27th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Tre'Davious White.
As this is the off season, obviously, that's kind of what we have to look forward to and what we might need in the draft going forward. Jeff, why don't you hit us with maybe your first, what you think is the first need for us going forward in next season?
Yeah, I haven't dug into the prospects yet, but I think if you went back and you read my piece of advocating to re-sign Matt Milano, you see the foundation I've laid for what I think the Bills' offseason should look like. First moves is always going to be bringing back their core players that brought them to the AFC Championship game. That includes Darrell Williams. That includes Matt Milano, I think. That includes guys like Isaiah McKenzie. But there's going to be, looking at the roster right now and looking at the cap situation, there's a lot of holes. So this is the most pivotal draft season I think the Bills will have in the next 10 years, because this is really going to lay the groundwork for what they're going to have in the future, as well as they're going to need to get some day one contributors to start playing right away. Soon to drop an article if you like reading a little bit more, but I've kind of separated this for brevity into like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 needs. Now I'll get into the tier 1 here first, and then maybe you guys will have some ideas once I get going. But tier 1, probably offensive line, interior, more of the focus than outside, but interior offensive line, cornerback, and defensive tackle. I think first and foremost, the Bills need to figure out what they're going to do on that offensive line. They only have Cody Ford, Deion Dawkins, and Mitch Morris coming back under contract, along with a bunch of practice squad and depth guys like Jordan Devey, Ryan Bates, and Trey Adams. So looking at this offensive line situation, you really got to be concerned about keeping Josh Allen upright. So I would probably, offensive line is my first need. And that first you're going to want to try to get Darrell Williams, but on top, and Ike Bucker back. On top of that, you're still going to need to fill in a lot of holes along the offensive line. So I'd like to see probably their first pick to go to an offensive lineman. It's going to depend on who they're scouting out. You might be able to push cornerback up there, but offensive line, it's the most important position group in the NFL, and it's something where they're seriously lacking right now. And we even saw it. I mean, they had great pass protection throughout the season, but we didn't get the type of run blocking we wanted to see for.
Just to interject there, those were going to be the points that I was bringing up. Is not only the offensive line, as you said, they did a pretty good job giving pass protection to Josh Allen all throughout the season. But yeah, I mean, and you really hate to see a lot of the blame going to Singletary when those guys are the ones that are giving him opportunities to advance up the field. It can't all be on him breaking tackles left and right. So, yeah, I would say I would agree with offensive line probably being one of the first things we should look into going into the 2020 draft. And but then, there should be some semblance of blame going towards Singletary too. Just the lack of performance really more than anything. Our running game suffered all season long, other than a couple, key runs that weren't even done by an offensive back.
And I'm 100% not opposed at all to getting an upgrade in the backfield. A lot of people are rightfully pointing towards the offensive line for the woes there, but you want a running back that can make their own holes sometimes. Everything is not going to be a perfect, clean hole to run through. Sometimes you have to cut back. Sometimes you're going to have to push through that first line of defenders. Singletary hasn't shown the ability. He lacks that athleticism to be able to do that in the first line of defenders. Once you get to the second level, he has that kind of elusiveness where he can make a 3-4 yard run into a 8, 10, 12 yard run. But you want someone that can come in here and try to overcome some of the shortcomings. And I didn't see that from Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss made some strides. But at that same time, I don't want them spending a high draft pick on a running back when they may be able to get a huge high upside guy round 5, round 6, round 7, even round 4. So I think the rarity of finding really good offensive linemen in the NFL and being able to keep them, you got to focus on that first. Things like running back, you might be able to find later in the draft. Even undrafted free agents. James Robinson just had a great year with Jacksonville, undrafted free agent. So they can probably get a little bit more creative in that avenue rather than trying to spend major draft capital up front on a running back. And then secondary on that tier 1 is cornerback as well. Big fan of the Bruce exclusive, Mr. Bruce Nolan. Does an excellent podcast, and he really breaks this down better than I could even try to. But they need to be able to find a better, more athletic cornerback opposite Trey White because they're just going to get a ton of targets because Trey White has the reputation of being one of the top lockdown corners, if not the best lockdown corner in the NFL. So quarterbacks aren't even looking his way. So Levi Wallace has quietly had a pretty good season. He's also on the free agent wire. He might price himself out. He's also very limited in what he can do in his athleticism. So I'd say, on the first 3 days of the draft, first 3 rounds of the draft, they should probably be looking at a cornerback. And then defensive tackle. I think that's another one. It's not that it's a lower need, but it's something where you can find more depth later on. In the first, these are all very rangy because it's going to depend on who they scout out. So maybe you can get a offensive lineman in the 3rd round who's going to be a stud. And then you can go and you can splurge on a really awesome defensive tackle, one technique that can free up some holes for Ed Oliver in the 1st round. So this can move around, but I'd say as far as top 3 needs, I'd put it in offensive line, cornerback, and then defensive tackle.
All right, all good stuff. So I want to segue into another segment that I just thought of 30 seconds ago, Around the League. This will be the first Around the League post-Super Bowl session. The first 2 things that come to mind post-Super Bowl from the winner and loser is Tom Brady being shuffled off of a boat, wasted off of his ass. And the second from the loser side of things, Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, a post-Super Bowl press conference. I want to say it was during the week after the Super Bowl. It wasn't immediately after. Basically throwing a bunch of receivers under the bus. Every quarterback's going to maybe do that from time to time, especially after losing some championships. You even saw that with the early 90s Bills. Jim Kelly went in there trash talking the entire team. Do you have anything to say about either incidents? TB12, the GOAT? Yeah.
Tom Brady blacking out in the drunk with Tom Brady blacking out in the boat.
Just absolutely noodle.
And throwing the Lombardi trophy over across to the other boat. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
He's like the golden boy, Mr. Prim and Proper. Doesn't drink a drop of alcohol throughout
He was 10 or 12 deep at Margaritaville.
He had to be carried off. It was like he looked like your dad at Margaritaville, It's like, oh my God. What are they saying? The avocado tequila is what he was drinking, Mr. Vegan.
No.
I don't know. I think that endeared him to a lot of people in Buffalo, too, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I will never have a nice a nice word to say about Tom Brady. I don't care how drunk he gets on the boat or how many Super Bowls he wins. I think he's a weenie. He's just a big weenie. I don't care. He can come fight me. He's got those spaghetti arms. I'm not afraid.
Yeah, I mean, he made our lives miserable for, 15, 20 years in the AFC East, and goes to a new team, whole new system, and wins another fucking Super Bowl. I mean, you can't like the guy, but I agree.
Nothing can go wrong for him. Nothing can go wrong. It's just not fair. It's not fair that anyone had that many good things in their life. It's just not right. There needs to be justice served.
Oh, boo yourself.
All right. So the tier 2 of team needs. Let me break this down. And I went to the school of long-wittedness, and so you have to bear with me here. But tier 2 is going to be running back and quarterback. These are going to be later round picks. And then you have safety and wide receiver, which is going to be more luxury picks, what you're going to do with some of the extra picks they had. They have 2 5th-round, 2 7th-round picks. Quarterback is a little bit funny one for me, and I questioned it while I was writing it down. A lot of it depends on where Jake Fromm is. None of us know what Jake Fromm is doing the whole season, right? He was on that COVID protocol emergency quarterback thing, and he was like forced to work out alone and eat lunch all by himself in the locker room. It was really weird. So we don't even know who we have for backup quarterbacks in the locker room. I'm going to assume right now that Matt Barkley is going to be gone. I don't think they can even spare the $2 million he's going to cost. You're going to have to save that for other position needs. Then you have Davis Webb, who has also not taken an NFL snap. So depending on what the coaches have seen from those two, they might need to go and spend a late round pick on another quarterback, bring in some more competition, bring in a high upside rookie. But we'll see with that. Safety's not an immediate need, but Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer are both nearing the end of their contracts. So you got to start preparing for life without them. They're going to be 2023. Jordan Poyer is going to be hitting free agency at age 32. Next season, Micah Hyde's hitting free agency at age 32. So there's a high likelihood that they're not going to be able to bring both of them back for the next 3 or 4 years. This might be the last season we see them both together, frankly. So Buffalo needs to start bringing in more people to come and compete for that next starting role. Jaquan Joseph and Cyron Neal and Dean Marlowe aren't showing like they're going to be consistent starters, so I hope they can maybe at the end of the round take a flyer on somebody that they might be able to have come in and compete. Then wide receiver, I've advocated for the cutting of John Brown. I don't like saying it. I don't want to see him in another uniform or even on the waiver wire, but he just came off an injury-riddled age 30 season. His best years, I'm almost certain, are behind him. They can save $8 million on the cap if you cut him right now. But who they have under contract right now, they have plenty of really good wide receivers. They still have Diggs, still have Beasley, still have, hopefully, Isaiah McKenzie. I think he should be one of the early contracts. And then you have Gabe Davis, who's shown he can be wide receiver too. But you still might want to see a little bit of competition in that room. You got guys like Gentry, Duke Williams, Isaiah Hodgins, who, you don't really know. You don't really know what Duke Williams would do with regular rotation. So those other guys haven't taken too many NFL snaps themselves. So in short and in summary, Tier 1, got to focus on the offensive line, defensive tackle, and cornerback. Those are major needs. Tier 2, linebacker, running back, quarterback, assuming that they bring back Matt Milano. And then you have safety and wide receiver, and that's Tier 3. That's more of like the luxury. We have time. We have room. Let's go and look at who we have that can possibly work their way as starters in the future.
John Brown, what do you do? Like you said, his career is also looks like it's starting to kind of creak into the downhill slope portion of his career. We need the cap space, $8 million. While it's not huge in cap space that lots of other teams have, it's plenty enough to where we can make some moves happen in the off season. He's Bills Mafia favor, so we'd hate to see him go, but he's done great things for us. This past season was a shame to see him injured as much as he was. Didn't get as many targets as you wish the guy would, but we'll see what happens with him. Yeah, I think that's all we've got for you today on the Buffalo Bills Blitzkrieg podcast. So I should mention that too. This is first time we've talked to you guys since after the Super Bowl, for the most part, other than on Twitter sphere. But as far as podcast goes, it's the first time we've mentioned this. But we're kind of going through an overhaul. We're going to do a little name change, probably avoid that lawsuit, just in case things ever skyrocket for us. We're watching our own backs on that. We are now at www.billsblitzkrieg.com. So you are still able to access any of the content that we have through that site. We will be doing regular podcast episodes and articles every week. So just be on the lookout for more stuff from myself and Jaf. And until next time, we will talk to you later. Let's go Buffalo.
Yeah, and I think just to add it on before we end it here, we're getting into a nice regular schedule to where we're going to be able to start putting stuff out regularly. We're going to start doing articles on Monday, podcasts on Tuesday. So just work us into your regular rotation. We're not trying to compete with anybody. We're just a couple guys having fun, playing around, talking Bills, talking shop. So I think we can be a nice addition to the podcast rotation. Listen to us on the treadmill. Listen to us on the ride home from work. Listen to me make a fool of myself. I don't care. Pick on us on Twitter. We love debating. I never block, never mute anybody on there. So come out, give us your takes, and keep reading the articles. Love the support, and it's going to keep coming at you guys. So
all right,
that.
good
Go
stuff.
Bills.
And see you guys next week.